Hello and welcome to Movies and Tea After Hours. I'm your host, always, Elwood Jones, and joining me, of course, is my co-host, Miss Kim Lowe.
Hello.
Tonight we're going to be looking at Kim's pick and the film that she's probably most concerned about me talking about, and that's 2018's teen romantic comedy To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Directed by Susan Johnson, so keeping in tune with our female director season, and written by Sophia Alfalas. Based on the book of the same name. As here we get to meet to high school junior Lara Jean Covey, who sets out with the ambitious goal of kissing 50 boys over the course of an eventful summer. No, not really. No, this that would have been an interesting movie. No, the film itself, it follows high school junior Lara Jean Covey, who basically has had 5 great loves over the course of her life, but never been able to tell these boys exactly what she thought about them, and wrote them instead love letters that she never intended to send out. However, as she gets older and her sister moves off to college, and had these letters mysteriously disappear and end up being delivered to the boys that she wrote about. So what follows is a very unique situation in regards to when one of the boys that she written to sees a unique opportunity for them to fake a relationship so he can get back at his ex-girlfriend. What follows, of course, being romantic calamity ensues, I guess, is the best way to talk about it. But Kim, I mean, you're obviously a big fan of this film. You were willing to stake our whole friendship on me watching it, so
Well, it was, our thing was contingent on the fact that you at least enjoyed it mildly.
Yeah.
To some degree. If you hated it, we weren't going to talk about it. So
So, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously based on the book by Jenny Han, To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I've never read it, but Kim, I believe you're a fan of the trilogy.
I am. I really like the books. I think it's one of the books that I've probably gone through the fastest, the whole trilogy. It was it's really well written. The situation is pretty good. And, I mean, it's really nice to see that To All the Boys I've Loved Before, at least this movie, really is similar to the book, but it takes all the good parts and puts it together. And at least to me, I feel like it translates fairly well. Because a lot of times when we have adaptations or whatever, it tends to kind of get really convoluted and maybe disjointed, and because they try to take too much from the book, or sometimes it turns out to be worse. But I feel like when they approach this one, it's more direct. Yeah.
So yeah, the film obviously stars Lana Condor as Lara Jean, who lives in a quiet life in the suburbs. She's got an older sister who's obviously going off to college in Scotland, because I guess that's exotic to American readers. I don't know why anyone would want to go to Scotland, but that's beside the point in this story. And the fact is, her mother died at a young age, so she's being raised by her father, along with her younger sister Kitty, who is just delightful in this film, and we will talk about her a bit later. But yeah, she basically ends up. She always had a crush on her friend Josh, who instead went off with her sister. But she put their feelings aside for that, and her other big crush was the lacrosse player Peter, who she ends up forming this sort of fake relationship with, because he's looking to get back at his ex-girlfriend and her former best friend, until life made things complicated and the pair fell out. But the concept here, I mean, obviously, when we look at Lara Jean, I mean, she's a hopeless romantic. She likes reading sort of Mills and Boon romance novels, the kind, featuring bodice ripping and windswept moors that old ladies used to buy in Borders, which was just fantastic to see. and the sort of business you appreciate when you're in the book trade, because they're not going on Amazon to buy it. So, but yeah, I mean, let's just start obviously with the character Lara Jean. I mean, how do you find her? I mean, I find she's really great, especially for sort of like the hopeless romantic character. Normally can verge on the sort of like delusional, but she seems to be pretty grounded.
Yeah, I mean, Lara Jean is, you can, she has all of the teenage kind of first time romance, that kind of awkwardness that she has. She's not carried away by this fake relationship, really. I mean, she is very, like, I guess, very clueless in many things, and she freaks out, and, like, when she wants to escape from Josh, after she sees that the letters have gotten out, she literally jumps out of her window to escape him. And you have these little moments which makes her so fun, because a lot of times is that she's built this wall that protects her, because she's scared to let people into her life because she's scared of losing people. And that is pretty much the foundation of her as a character. So in reality, when the story goes, it's somewhat more than just a romance, because Lara Jean is embodied by the tight relationship she has with her family and her sisters. She's embodied by this friendship that fell out, and then she's embodied by these loves that she's scared to express, but she can only write in letters. And this all creates this character, and she is very grounded, because when you don't, I mean, it makes sense, because when you're not willing to let it all out, kind of thing, like, you will create these things that will stop you from experiencing, I guess, the full experience of it, right? Of being in love, even if it's in a fake relationship.
Yeah, she has this sort of very fantastical view of what being in a relationship is. I mean, that's just
based on 16 Candles.
Yeah, it's based on 16 Candles and devouring romance novels, which, despite her friends obviously saying, why are you into those? I mean, they're cheesy as anything, but she's like, no, I really love these novels with, like, Fabio on the cover and whatnot. It's
yeah, but, I think for one of the reasons why I really like the character of Lara Jean is that I can relate to her in certain ways. I didn't read, like, bodice ripping novels or anything, but I was reading Nicholas Sparks when I was in high school. So, which is very similar to what this is. But at the same time, you have that whole hopeless romantic and that sort of thing. I mean, the Asian angle and all that. For me, it's very close to how I feel. My life was when I was a teenager. Like, you don't have a boyfriend, but you're gonna fantasize about how you'd expect a boyfriend to be, right? And it's not like Peter Kavinsky is a horrible person either, right? So it's a different type of jock. When we look at the character that, Peter is the character that she ends up dating in this fake relationship. And as she learns more about Peter, they form this bond where they're both people who are hurt. They're both people who have lost, family, lost, whatever. So...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we look at Lara Jean, I mean, she's been raised by her father, who, I love, hasn't got a first name. He's just Dr. Covey. But he is played by After Hours Hall of Famer John Covet, who, let's not forget, we saw recently in 47 Meters Down 2, Uncaged. Mm-hmm. So, good for him getting those father checks in. But yeah, he's a gynecologist, and basically doing the best he can to raise his 3 daughters, even trying to keep in touch with the family traditions. I mean, was she Korean?
Korean.
I don't know.
Korean.
Yes. I think it's played more in the sequel, I want to say. So, but yeah, he even tries to replicate Korean recipes, and even though the girls know that his cooking is pretty awful, they've got this whole system where you just basically take bites and go as we see in the opening. But yeah, I mean, as you were saying about Peter, I mean, he's not your traditional jockey sort of character. I mean, yes, he plays lacrosse, but at the same time, he's got a good nature to him, which I suppose is something going for him. And it's actually one of the few times I've actually rooted for the Jock character, especially when we get into the sequel and we see who he's up against as the love rival. But we'll talk a little more about the sequel later.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Centineo really, really broke out with this sort of this role as Peter Kavinsky, and I mean, he's been named, I think, the internet's boyfriend or something because of this movie, and you can see why, because there is a lot of really charming elements about this character. He's also a little clueless. He still goes around, being, I guess, trailed along by his ex-girlfriend in the beginning. And you can see his character gradually change as he opens up a little bit more about himself. And him and Lara Jean kind of form this bond. But obviously, the two of them they're at different stages of romance. Peter's a little bit more experienced, I guess, in the sense that he's had one relationship instead of Lara Jean's 0. And it's just, they have a really comfortable vibe between them. And that's what I really like in movies like this. I mean, whenever you look at things like this, even when you're reading the novel, these two characters come together very naturally, even if it's a very unnatural way that they establish this connection. A lot of it goes back to just Lara Jean being able to build, I guess, a lot of confidence from this person and being able to interact with a guy without having those boundaries. And it all dials down to the fact that she doesn't think that she's not scared of this relationship in, quotations, because like she in a conversation that she had with him, because it's fake. And this kind of like lives out a bit of her fantasy that she can do all this, but then she's also very clear of what's going on. So when she's letting him do things like swing her around with his hand in her pocket or whatever, that sort of stuff, it's very romantic to watch, but at the same time, they're very in that moment that, right after she's like, okay, well, I never knew that this stuff would happen, but, this is what my life has become. And all those little monologues, I find, really give this movie that extra charming moments of really how she lives in her head a lot.
Yeah, I'd have to say that Noah Centineo, in terms of like the boyfriend material, he's about as threatening as the Evan Dando record. It's all like, I love you, but not really, he. It's all very sweet and safe. There's never any sort of like danger of anything getting out of hand with him, which I kind of appreciate. He's never sort of like pulls the usual Jock move where he has a temper tantrum about something or forces her into an uncomfortable situation. Although she does make him watch 16 Candles, which I mean is its own form of sadism. So, and I wasn't sure that was included just so that the fact that they can comment on about how horribly racist that movie is. So,
I think it is. It's more of the point of how, these girls are Asian, obviously, and then they're really in love with this movie, who obviously portrays the Asian character in a super racist way. But then it's also, when you're at that age, I think it really shows that you're at this age of appreciating something for one element. And in that case, they make a really good point. It's Jake Ryan. And, Jake Ryan is that sort of guy who's just kind of in the background, and she's living it. I guess in some ways you can think that Lara Jean's life at that moment is very similar to 16 Candles, because she lives in this world that whoever she likes is in the distance, which is similar to how 16 Candles play, where Jake Ryan is in the distance of whatever the character's name is. I forgot her name already. But
you mean, Molly Ringwald's character.
Yeah, exactly. Molly Ringwald's character. So in reality, it actually pulls a lot of parallels if people have seen it. But I think that's just honestly an Easter egg. I think the point of it is why it's setting out that point that even though they're they obviously know what's wrong with the movie, they like it because of the boy. And that's very, a lot. I have no problem with that, because that is a very, teenage girl when you start seeing these boys and this this perfect type of boyfriend type of character that you want, and that's what you watch it for.
I'm not a John Hughes fan at all. I didn't grow up with John Hughes movies, so when I try to watch them now, and I just really don't get the appeal, or they just like clash with my own politics, like with the case of Breakfast Club. So I do not have the same nostalgia everyone else has for John Hughes movies, to say the least. So I'll take your word for it on there. But it's one thing that did really sort of surprise me is the fact that we got this character Josh, who's always in the background, but he's never set up as like the rival for Peter, which I was expecting, because obviously he just always remains like the best friend character, which I thought was kind of interesting, because I thought that obviously with him getting his letter as well and finding out how Lara Jean has felt about him all these years, that he's been dating her sister. And I have to say, I totally felt that sequence at the start where it's sort of like she's there fed wheeling on dates and stuff. It's sort of like, yeah, I totally feel you, Lara. I've been there, hoping someone brings someone for you to talk to. Male, female, mineral, vegetable, doesn't matter. Just something for you to have an interaction with. So while your friends are busy sucking face and whatnot. So, but yeah, as I say, it was really interesting. I was surprised that nothing really got played up there, but at the same time, I was kind of glad, because it meant that we could obviously see Lara Jean having these sort of like finally having a relationship, even though it starts off as a fake relationship, and you find these people who are actually, while they're pulling this sort of like Easy A style ruse of being completely into each other, that they soon discover, that we do actually have feelings for each other. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but I think another thing that also, like, when you're talking about what's kind of a relieving change that we've been talking about a lot in the past, obviously teen movies that we've been watching, is how fallout of your best friend is what's causing this person to break out of their shell. Whereas this one, it's not because so much of her falling out with anybody, but it's more of just a situation that propels her into accepting another situation that makes her break out of her, her own comfort zone. And I kind of like that, because, obviously I can't imagine this movie, because I honestly think all the characters are done really, really well. And in this case, I mean, you have her best friend, which Christine is played by Madeline Arthur, who is this kind of EDM loving, kind of badass kind of girl. She has her little attitude. She doesn't like to be involved in school functions and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, she's the free spirit, which is awesome, and it reminded me a lot of a similar character in Booksmart, which is what I immediately wanted to pair this film to as soon as I saw her character. And yeah, much like Kitty, I really enjoyed every time she was on the screen. She always had something to say, and I think it's fun the fact she plays up against her own cousin. There's no family loyalty in that family for sure. It's sort of like she rather support Lara Jean than her own cousin. So
yeah, I mean another, obviously, if we talk about the Song Sisters, even that's really played really well. I mean, obviously the older sister Margot is not as apparent because she's flown to Scotland and we just see her for little bits here and there, but I mean, Janelle Parrish is a great actress. I've liked her since Pretty Little Liars, and I'm pretty happy to see her do something outside of this Pretty Little Liars.
So she
situation.
was.
She was. She was.
I didn't place that until I just looked up on Wikipedia.
She's a crazy girl. She's a crazy smart girl who wants to be popular.
Yes. No,
I forgot her name.
It's all coming back to me now because yes, it's all coming back to me now. Whenever I kind of blotted Pretty Little Lies out of my head after how stupid that last season got, and it was so stupid.
Yeah, but we're not talking about Pretty Little Liars.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think the sister relationship is one of the things I really also like about the movie, especially because, you know, obviously you have these three sisters who are very different characters in their own. And Kitty is just a charming, just so charming. Because she's so fun. Everything she says is so quirky. It's so cute. And you just can't help but, like, it's these little moments, these characters like Kitty and Christine, that kind of bring this humor into it, right? Even Dad, right? Dr. Covey has this kind of dad jokes type of thing. And it all plays out to kind of give this romantic vibe that they're having, a nice little feel-good comedy moments.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you said already about John Corbett being on full dad mode here, but it's kind of what I needed from his character. I just need him to be like the parental presence in the background here. All the other characters handle everything else in her life, but you need that sort of like parental rock sort of character in the background there, and I think that's what he provides. He also has that really great scene where is it Emily who's questioning about why he became a gynecologist?
Oh, Christine? Yeah.
Christine. And it's sort of like, why did you... Do you think just like wake up, it's like, I just really want to look at women's vaginas all day, so... And he's like, yes, Christine. It's now nice to see you again.
I'm leaving the room now.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we obviously can keep going back and forth to Lara and Peter's relationship, but I think just the evolution of them, the fact it's not just like there's never sort of like any sort of real peril for her, and he's always like plays his cards very sort of straight. It's never sort of like he's pulling some sort of ruse on her, which was kind of unique. Much less the fact that he leaps to her defense when the makeout in the hot tub, which is so overblown in this film. It's made more. It's made as it's like when you read like point horror novels or like Babysitter Club, and characters have a makeout session. It's like the most scandalous thing, because that's about all the sex that kids who read those books can handle. So, but no, it's so awkward that whole scene where she's making out in the hot tub, where she's basically wearing like the most layers possible. So she's essentially wearing like a wetsuit. And he's of course in his statesman dress, because that's, you know, what the audience this movie want to see, clearly.
Well, she's in her nightgown, so it's not that bad. But
I know, but it's sort of like, really...
I mean, like, it's... I guess, I mean, if you think about it, I haven't gone to any of these, like, school ski trips. I've never gotten, like... I've never gone there. So I don't know about how these things usually go down.
Not like that, I'm guessing.
But, I mean, it's just... But, I mean, for them, I guess it's a big deal, and there's kind of a little spite going on. The video probably, like, it's just, you know, school gossip, right? That's what the movie's about. In some ways, it's just propelling them into this phase of how Peter is, you know, I guess she blames him in a certain way for just how this went down, and she's angry, and there's... I mean, that's kind of the turning point for their relationship, when they start facing up to this situation, which kind of breaks them apart, because for the most part, the only thing that's been in the way is that their relationship is fake. And then they made it real, and then the moment it turns real, she realizes that he doesn't really, I guess, respect her, right? Which, you know, my only complaint that bothers me the most about this movie is that her favorite scrunchie was lost in the beginning, in like the first party that she went to.
Yeah. And
she only realized it at the ski trip, which was like 3 months after. So, I don't know. It's a little odd. But
maybe he thought he was keeping it for his own personal use.
But that's really like picking at like little things. I mean, for me, the movie is really, a lot of it is really charming. I mean, it lives up to the novel a lot, and that's one thing that I really liked about the whole thing. I mean,
I have to say though, the fact that Jen's reasons for falling out with Lara are so stupid.
It is, but at the same time,
it's just like a teenage girl thing, where this is this is perfectly justifiable.
I don't know if it's justifiable. I haven't been in these situations, but I mean,
okay.
But I really think that for her, it's something that she fell out with Lara Jean because of the game that, the truth or spin the bottle or whatever that they were playing. And at that point in her life, it was a big deal. Because she was best friends. And I think that we get an idea of how good of friends they are when we get into the second movie, where the second movie really layers in all these relationships with a little bit more depth. So we know about this friendship that Lara Jean and Jen had. You know about the people they were with when they were younger. And then you know about, a little bit deeper on this other thing. Because now that we've moved past this first movie, in many ways I see the first movie as more of a coming of age for Lara Jean instead of a romance type of thing. But this romance makes her get in touch with that coming of age portion of herself. Like Peter kind of pulls her out, and she starts realizing these things about herself, that she shouldn't live in her head, and she should embrace these things, and the issues that she needs to face, like her mom not being there anymore, and that sort of stuff, right? But when we get to the second movie, all of these things that we weren't so clear on suddenly kind of pulls back with a little bit more depth to it, so that it kind of, I don't know, it kind of works a little bit better.
I mean, I was surprised. I thought this first one was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Which was good. I mean, yes, it's very sort of throwaway sort of entertainment. It's not particularly deep on any level.
You're talking to me who's seen it like 30 times.
Yeah, I know you've seen it 30 times. I'm not sure I would sit down and watch this 30 times, but as I said, at the same time, it's not the worst thing that we've watched here on the show. I think that's an honor bestowed upon the Reef at this point, is probably the worst thing we've watched on this show. But I'm sure that we can tunnel a lot deeper with that one. So, but yeah, as I said, I was very surprised at how into the actual sort of story and everything else that I was drawn into this one. So yeah, it was an enjoyable watch. The sort of thing you would throw on like a Sunday afternoon or something if you're just looking for something to have on in the background maybe and stuff. But it did actually inspire me to like want to see where the story goes next, which obviously is continued in To All the Boys, P.S. I Love You, or P.S. I Still Love You, should I say, sorry. But yeah, I mean, this again is based on the second book by Jenny Han, and this basically picks up the story almost directly after the end of the first film, because Lara and Peter are still dating, and she's so hopelessly in love that she dances around her room to And Then He Kissed Me, and in this wonderful little musical sort of sequence, which is all very nice and delightful. But if you watched the secret, the bonus ending of the first film, you will know that one of her other letters, which she gave to John Ambrose McLaren, he turned up at the end of the last film to basically announce he's also in love with her as well. So,
but note is the person, the one that delivers delivers the letter in the first bonus scene is not the same person as in the movie in the sequel.
Oh yeah, yeah. In this one, though, he's been replaced by Jordan Fisher, so not only has he had a character change, but he's also had an ethnicity change. And it's all for the worst, really, because John Ambrose was a perfect counter to Peter, because Peter's obviously like the lacrosse-playing jock, who... I have to say it just really surprised me that with Lara Jean, the fact that she does that really cliche thing of when she goes to talk to him and just walking in the middle of a lacrosse pitch. I don't know what it is in these films where you always have someone just walk in the middle of like a sports game and stuff, and they don't like get clobbered by a ball or something. So, Or like the teacher's never there to get them to get their ass off the pitch, which is what would happen in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was obviously set up. You've got, John Ambrose, who's got like more sort of like the brains, and he's going up against the brawns of Peter. I mean, that's a real sort of interesting grudge match there. I mean, we pit, brawns against brains. It's like, which one does she go with? But no, the makers of the film decide to recast him, so we end up with the human wallpaper that is Jordan Fisher.
I don't know. I actually like Jordan Fisher.
Oh my god!
I do think he's fairly.
He is fucking atrocious.
I don't know. I mean,
his only one move is to bear track grin through this film like a motherfucker who's so saccharine sweet. I just almost like threw up on my mouth just like seeing him bullshit his way through this fucking movie. Oh my god, I was so annoyed with his character, like beyond anything else. But no, please do carry on, Kim.
That's some deep hatred. I don't know. I don't have that much defense for him, but for me everything is for me, watching any movie like this is a feeling. For me, Jordan Fisher and the chemistry that he had with Lana Condor, I just thought was there. Every moment was created. It was really, really well done. I can't defend the second movie a lot because I think that I enjoy it for what it is, but at the same time, I also didn't it was my least favorite book of the trilogy. So I already knew that the movie itself is good because it actually cuts out some of the many tangents that it goes on in the actual book. So it kind of like has a slimming effect, which works to its favor for the movie. But I mean, in reality, it plays on so many things that nothing, we learn a lot of little bits and pieces about every person, but we don't really get a whole lot of, I think one of the things that really bothers me is that they did have, I mean, probably to your happiness, is that Jordan Fisher's character, like John Ambrose, is supposed to have this really amazing scene in the book that ends the book itself. And I think that they took it out and then they replaced it with this ball. And it seems to... I'm not sure if that was in the book. Maybe it was. And then... And it just kind of switches things around a little. Because that scene when I was reading it was like really, really magical, I guess. But I don't know. I mean... I don't have a problem with John Ambrose's character. I think that he does fine. I mean, I've watched Jordan Fisher in a few other things. The Grease live whatever, he's pretty good in that one. I mean, he's good in the singing stuff, dancing stuff, that sort of thing. I mean, I just watched Work It where he's in it. Didn't know he was in it though. The movie isn't too great, but he's not bad.
Yeah, he's phenomenal when he's not on the screen.
It's okay, I'm not gonna defend because there's nothing to defend about. It's in reality, any character like this or any actor is really just a feeling to me. And for me, Jordan Fisher is all right. I don't have an issue with him, but I mean, I totally respect that you think he's not great. Like for me, I prefer Noah Centineo a whole lot more, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of obviously the movie plays it really well because Peter Kavinsky is such a charming character even when they keep trying to pull this Jen move where he keeps going back to his ex-girlfriend or something, and they keep playing on that. I actually think this movie didn't play as much on it as it was supposed to. It was more in Lara Jean's head that the stuff is going on than the actual situation being where she keeps showing up and it's like her and Peter thing. So, I mean, because that's a different tone from the novel's approach.
Yeah, I mean, the first film was all about, obviously Lara and Peter getting together.
Yeah.
And it's great. So they're finally together. And then we have this film, which spends, much like the first Sex and the City movie, spends all its time trying to break them up by just piling, like, obstacle against obstacle against obstacle. I mean, this man has to climb a freaking mountain to keep his own girlfriend. At the same time, Lara goes to work in a retirement home where she meets an eccentric old lady called Stormy, who her sister often talked about working with. And it's here as well that she, of course, discovers that John Ambrose is working there. Yay! And of course, the two carry on the little relationship there, and all the time that everything Peter does is just wrong in this movie. We're just going to get this off the bat because he doesn't. Vantage rolls around, and Lara Jean expects this big, romantic gesture from him because he did all these things for his ex-girlfriend Jen, like he sent her like a cappella groups on every period, and instead he gives her this silver necklace which has got 2 verses of a Edgar Allan Poe poem, Annabelle Lee, but obviously changing Annabelle Lee to Lara Jean's name, and she thinks, of course, it's like this original piece of poetry that he's written, and he obviously doesn't tell her, which is probably to his detriment, but never mind. And it just seems, as I said, at the same time he's being like constantly seen as like trying to get back with Jen, and all these characters were supposed to like John Ambrose and Stormy. You just sort of end up resenting because you're just being a dick to this guy for no apparent reason. It's just to provide unnecessary, just conflict where there doesn't need to be conflict. And like the Taj Mahal of this sort of nonsense really comes at the end of this ball sequence where they're like forcing Lara and John Ambrose to dance together. It's all like, oh yeah, she must dance together, and of course they've both been given, like, he's got his white suit and she's been given the dress which of course fits her perfectly, and it just seems to be like this constant piling of just irritation as he just like gurns his way through every bloody scene.
And hatred.
It's so hard.
I actually watched it the second time, and I didn't hate it as much as I didn't dislike it as much as the first time.
It's the one time you wanted the jock character to beat the living snot out of the nerdy guy. It's like, Peter, just kick his ass already.
But the thing is that it's not an obvious love triangle. No one's trying to steal anyone. No one's trying to do like that sort of thing. But the thing is, the story is always about Lara Jean. It's always about what's going on in her head. Everything is going on in her head. She's now that she's got the guy, she's starting to worry about losing the guy because he's this popular dude. And in comes my theory about how normal girls don't date hot guys. Or at least their husband will not be a hot guy in the end. You can date them, but you're not going to marry them. But that's my
I'm just trying to just taking all that on here and stuff. So you're going to decide if you're going to be a reacher or a settler. Is that what you're trying to say here? I mean, obviously,
no, that's not it. It's not what I'm saying. It's just I'm just saying that you don't usually, because the fact is it's hard for Lara Jean's character, where it comes in as a like she's unconfident because she's not popular, right? She's not in that same circle, that same kind of frame as Peter Kavinsky is in. Whereas Peter Kavinsky is this outgoing character. A lot of girls like him. He gets like a avalanche of love letters that fall out of his locker when he opens it on Valentine's Day, even though they know he has a girlfriend. And this is the type of character that, she's committed to, right? And that's why, like when we come to the characters of Christine and Lucas, they're the ones who tell them, well, like, this is the situation that you're in. You've chosen this dude. You just got to stand up for it, right? And for her, it's hard because she's living in her mind that she's not good enough or whatever. I don't know what it is. Like, she feels like it's so hard to be in this world. But, like, just to go along with the things that he does with, these silly jock boys type of activities, So you have this sort of situation where they're different people trying to be together. And all they have is really the other things that are similar. But she's starting to fall into kind of like a self-doubt situation. And I think, I mean, for me, I kind of thought it was a good angle to take, to keep it as a self-doubt, and not place so much on this love triangle. Because the love triangle is more of kind of everyone starting to feel a bit threatened by everyone else. And then things kind of play on that. But, you know, Lara Jean makes bad decisions on that part. And then, you know, Peter makes some bad decisions and that sort of stuff. But, I mean, there's a lot of flaws with the second movie. That, you know, the first movie, like I said, keeps it so straightforward with what the story is trying to tell, that the second movie, it's not about so much, you know, I think the filming and how everything is set up is really good. But the story itself, while I think is a little bit more tight-knit than the novel itself, I think when I reviewed it, I said that some of the things that the novel could lose was some of the faults of the novel was fixed in the movie, but then the movie had faults that were fixed in the novel. So it lacked in that department of what they cut and what they kept and how these characters are designed and that sort of thing that kind of built up what the story was supposed to be.
On the downside, characters such as Emily and Kitty are pushed to the background more in this one, which was kind of a shame, especially in terms of Kitty, because Kitty was so good in the first one. It seemed a real shame that the fact that she was pretty much non-existent here. We also get to meet the girl's cousin, Haven, here played by Julie Tao, who is probably one of the greatest characters in this whole film. Mainly because she's just constantly on her phone and is just sarcastic as all hell. So I really liked her. We also, while her father doesn't get a first name, he does get a girlfriend of sorts with the attractive neighbour, played by Soraya Blue, which is kind of nice. It's nice to see her dad, you know, meeting someone new, because it's been a while since his wife passed on. So, although it did amuse me the fact that they decide, because her mother had this tradition where rather than having Thanksgiving and Christmas at the end of the year, that she had created, I know it was like a second Thanksgiving, or she just moved Thanksgiving forward to March, but
yeah, it's a Fakesgiving, which is very funny, because which is like such a coincidence for us, because we're recording this on U.S. Thanksgiving. Yes,
day after the U.S. Turkey Day, so enjoy your food, comers there, America. We obviously don't have anything to really be thanks for here in the UK, so we just have our one day of turkey. So it also amuses me as well in the scene that Lara Jean, who's supposed to be this really intelligent student, decides that she's going to carry enough sprouts for 5 people in her hands. Not like a bag or anything. I'm just going to manhandle the sprouts, which just made me laugh more than it probably should have. So a problematic sequel, to say the least. I mean, we obviously can see in many ways it's obviously marks the next evolution of these characters, because you're obviously getting older. I mean, they dig up the time capsule, which gives them that sort of like senior year sort of feel to the story, and they're obviously looking back at you know, the people that they used to be. But yeah, just it has those glaring issues which make me really made it hard to get into this one, to say the least. So I think every time you have some jackass twinkling away on the piano trying to charm, it's just like, oh, just fuck off.
It's okay. You know what? The biggest fault of this movie for you was Jordan Fisher. If they had recasted him, you would have enjoyed this movie.
If they had kept the original guy,
huh?
If they kept the original guy, I probably would have enjoyed this movie a lot more. You know, because I would have bought the guy doing all this stuff at the retirement home. When it's Jordan Fisher, it just feels like some creepy attempt to pick up Lara Jean, despite the fact she has a boyfriend, and he can't take a hint, is what it feels like. But because because he's like John Ambrose.
But John Ambrose's character doesn't know that she's in a relationship, and she does hide the fact. So Lara Jean, like I said, she has her faults. and how she handles the situation. I'm not going to defend like Jordan. It's impossible to defend someone that you hate, so I'm not going to defend it. That's why I don't discuss movies that you don't like, because then you got this strong feeling, and I can't fight over it.
As I said, it's just this one aspect to this thing. I mean, as I said, if we were hanging out, and it's all like, oh yeah, we're going to watch To All the Boys, and I'll be like, you know what? Yes, we will watch that. And you know, that wouldn't be a wasted evening. It's just unfortunate. It's just this one horrible miscasting. I still don't understand why the hell they recast him. I mean, is he got more marketability than the previous actor?
Yes.
So
Jordan Fisher, despite your dislike, actually I think turned into like Netflix's like internet's husband or something like that at that point. I don't remember what the title was. He got another title after this movie came out. And that's one of the reasons. I mean, he's been making a lot more movies. I think on Netflix he has a few movies maybe. I don't know. Jordan Fisher is very marketable actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Star of such hit movies as Teen Beach Movie and Teen Beach 2. And that horrible misguided Grease Life. Oh, and he was also in Rent Life, which was atrocious as well, so... let's see what else.
Well, he wasn't Until Dawn.
He also commented the 2019 Fortnite World Cup. Ooh.
Either way, I mean, we're not going to discuss Jordan Fisher till the next day, but I mean... Deal is, the second movie was not quite as good as the first one. A lot of shortcomings. It kind of fell back. You know what it was that was the problem was that P.S. I Still Love You actually took a lot more of that romantic angle. I think it drove a lot into like it fell a bit more into the more familiar type of teen romance story. And then that kind of took away some of the uniqueness it had from the initial idea of, sending out love letters and then this mess that she gets herself into, this fake relationship. All the quirkiness turns into something, I guess, a lot more serious. We lose a bit of the quirk from the first one, and then the second one comes in, and it's more dramatic, I guess.
Yep. This is worth noting. He plays 6 instruments: piano, guitar, bass, harmonica, which isn't an instrument, drums, and the French horn, which I'm sure is a real panty dropper. It's so hard oh my god, it's just, I've never seen, it's just... we have a classic example.
You have to stop. You have to stop. This is Jordan Fisher is done. We're done with him. We're not going back. I'm making a mental note. We are never going to watch another Jordan Fisher movie ever. Okay?
It shouldn't be hard because Jordan Fisher doesn't normally stumble into the crosshairs of my movie watching. But unfortunately, as I said, I mean, it's not often the fact that you can pin the failings of a film on just one person's performance, which is quite unusual in this situation. I mean, I'm interested obviously to see where the third film goes. I mean, you obviously read the book, Kim, so you're ahead of me. And unlike the previous film, we don't have that sort of like post-credit sequence I was sort of waiting for, where like, I don't know, like one of the other boys, because I think there's one other letter that's still floating around.
No, there's no more letters floating around.
Okay.
No. All the letters, one was returned in the first one. One was returned because it was mailed to some camp bunks. And then there was John Ambrose. There was Peter Kavinsky. Lucas is gay, so...
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Which I thought was an interesting twist, so...
And then the last one was Josh. And Josh kind of just fell out in this he didn't appear at all.
That's what was missing.
Yeah. Josh was supposed to have a storyline in this one. He was supposed to have a storyline where... he would be dating this new girl, and then Margot would come back, and they would kind of have this kind of facing each other type of thing. If I remember correctly, I think that was the plot in the novel. Josh didn't vanish from the earth. He's still the neighbor. He still goes to school. He's still he's just met someone else kind of thing.
Which I mean is understandable. I mean obviously is because. His girlfriend split up with him before she went off to college, so he's a free agent. He can do what he wants.
Yeah, pretty much. Because this one they had to take out Josh and put in Trevor, so that Christine would have a love interest.
Okay.
No.
I just trying to remember Josh. Oh yes, I remember Josh because he's from 13 Reasons Why. Yes, now it's all coming back to me because I've made a note to talk about him because it was sort of like his inclusion, just like he just basically comes out of nowhere into this story. Yet we're informed that he's important.
Oh, Trevor, right? You mean Trevor?
Trevor, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's Reggie in Riverdale. I've seen the beginning of that part where he's in Riverdale. So
Yeah, he's Zach Dempsey in 13 Reasons Why.
Which is a movie I haven't gotten to, and I feel like if I don't know, your hatred of Jordan Fisher is how I feel about 13 Reasons Why. So
13 Reasons Why the first season was fantastic. I mean, it was interesting because we were watching with my wife, and anything where we watch like 2 episodes back to back is a box set binge in my household. Because, we got family and stuff, so you don't get to sit and watch like a whole series in one go. So 13 Reasons Why was the first season was just gripping from start to front. Although Netflix, I believe, have cut the guts out of it by editing out a very crucial scene in that one. And the second season was very was pretty good, but the third season not so much. But I think, as I said, 13 Reasons Why, if they left it alone and stopped listening to the cancel culture out there who just demand cuts and got offended at shocking but very real moments in that series, it would have been a really sort of standout series that I think we would be talking about more. But he's very good, and it's he's essentially just doing what he does. So I haven't really seen him branch out from playing this sort of role. He's, the tall Asian jock guy. So, well, good for him for cornering a market.
Well, he's still young. I mean, most of these actors and these things are still young. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen when they're going to get some kind of breakout role in some movie that's going to give them, a change. Because eventually all these people, all these big stars that we're seeing in these blockbusters and stuff and Oscar bait movies and whatever is gonna have to start playing father roles and other roles. Well, backing down.
He was in, because I mean, as you said before, I mean, he's in Riverdale, which I watched like 2 episodes of. I couldn't get into that show. He was in Teen Wolf, which I never watched. He's currently in Swimming with Sharks, which I assume is the Benicio del Toro movie. They've done a TV adaptation. And he was also in Teen Beach too, so good for him. And he's in a bunch of music videos as well. So, but yeah.
So let's wrap this up. Overall thoughts on.
I was just going to ask you what your feelings of Ross Butler was, but no, that's fine. We'll wrap this up. No, please, you carry on, Lincoln.
Huh? No, you go.
I just wondered what your thoughts on Ross Butler was, with what he's sort of rating, because we've obviously talked about how other main leads are Netflix's husband and whatnot, so I don't know where he sort of rates with the ladies.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know where he ranks. But I mean, Ross Butler is fine. I mean, I like this character. I like Trevor character. I haven't seen him in really anything else other than Riverdale, and I stopped watching Riverdale after season 2, so yeah. I don't really remember a lot about it, and that was a few years back. So
yeah, he failed the.
No, I'm gonna eventually pick up Riverdale again, and then I will let you know. But for now, I mean, I like him in here. I think he's an interesting pair up with Chris, but then I mean, he's really like supporting. Like he's. Like third line actor at this point.
Yeah. He doesn't get a lot to do, it's true.
Yeah.
I think the most incredible bit of acting he does is somehow fitting into that tiny ass treehouse. So, because he's a tall guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, To All the Boys, the first film I think is it's a good movie. I mean, it's for myself, I would say it's around the, it's a 3.5. sort of movie for myself, so it's enjoyable. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you do, Kim, but at the same time, it's not. It's an enjoyable experience while it lasts, and it's just a shame the sequel failed to live up to the potential. It just gets caught up in its own mechanics to really sort of get the same sort of momentum as the first movie, and certainly it's not as fun as the first film. But I'm interested to see where the third one goes. So,
well, chances are by the time this episode is published, the third movie will probably be out.
Yes, to all the boys, always and forever, Lara Jean. So, I suppose we could always just go and read the book or something, I guess. But yes, this brings us to another edition of the After Hours. Thank you as always for listening, and thank you to my co-host Kim. If you haven't done already, please do hit the like and subscribe button wherever you happen to be listening to us, and maybe leave us a review, as it all helps raise the profile of the show. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out our full archive of episodes at moviesandteapodcast.wordpress.com, which has got all our previous seasons. So when we looked at Paul W. Sanson and Guillermo del Toro, Sofia Coppola, Ang Lee, including our most recent season looking at female directors of note. Obviously we've got now coming on to season 7, Kim, and who we're going to be looking at as our director of note.
Yeah, we're going with a pretty popular name, I would say. And that's Quentin Tarantino. We're obviously starting off with 92's Reservoir Dogs.
Yep, Quentin Tarantino, one of my most important directors in life, and probably one of the people I've raved on more about other than Godzilla. So it's going to be a very fanboy-heavy season. I'm going to warn in advance, so...
I'm glad you are, because I'm a little lukewarm, so we're
really?
gonna see how revisiting is gonna feel.
Yeah, there's Tarantino touches into a lot of areas, both in fanboyness and just in film appreciation cultures. He covers a lot of bases, so it's going to be really interesting to obviously discuss him, and certainly the role he played in the American independence scene of the early 90s. But that's obviously to come on our next season, so hopefully you can join us for that. But thank you as always for listening, and we will be back next time to kick up with our Quentin Tarantino season 7 with Reservoir Dogs. But until then, good night.